Hey there, Sarah here. I'm the owner of Sarah's Weddings and the founder of Bride School, and I wanted to talk to you today about my best tips on catering your wedding. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can go ahead and hire a catering company. That's going to be your highest priced way to do this, but they're going to have everything you need in order to make your wedding just look amazing. So that is one route to go. However, the majority of this video, I'm going to be concentrating on brides who are either DIY, you're trying to do all the food yourself or have a friend help you, or for girls who are just super busy and don't want to spend the high ticket on actually having a catering company and want to try to do some of it in-house. So I'm going to show you how we can go about that and best ways to save money and also save your time. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do a wedding reception. Traditionally, the most princess way to go about it is to have what we call plate service, which means that each individual person has an individual plate made up for them and it's served to them by a catering staff. Again, this is your high price way of doing this. Good ways to do that on a budget. Well, to be honest, there's no way to do that on a really tight budget. If you want that kind of service, you have to be willing to pay for it. But ways we can save on that, if that's what you're looking for, is you can do lower priced items. So, skip the filet mignon, go with something a little bit lighter. Don't do seafood, have some vegetarian options these days, especially with, keto and vegan and all these different dietary needs that people have. It's actually very easy sometimes to have low cost plating service. So that's one way you can cut back maybe like a couple $100 off of this, but it's still going to be probably up there in the thousands if that's what you want to do. There's another way you can go about this, which is to have a buffet line. This is a great option for brides who are maybe in like the 20,000 overall category for your wedding, and you want to have a lavish meal, but you don't want to necessarily pay for extra catering staff to do plate service, okay? So we're going to talk about some really great ways that you can put together a buffet line that looks beautiful. I don't know if you've ever noticed this before. I'm going to use my handy dandy whiteboard here. But when you walk up to a buffet line, have you ever seen just like a bunch of plates and then little things placed randomly, and it's all flat, right? Everything's on the same level and it doesn't look very pretty. Sometimes they're even in maybe like tin foil containers. That's okay if that's what you can afford. If that's what you're going for, then that's totally fine. But if you have just a few extra dollars to spend on making this look pretty, I have some great tips for you. So let's talk about that. The first thing you want to do is actually change the height of different items on the table. That's going to add a lot of aesthetics to it. So let's just say that this is the table and it's flat. We're looking at it at eye level, right? We want to add boxes or little stands or things to put food on, and then have something at bottom level and then something up on top, and then something down here and then something up on top. So it kind of gives it this like staggered look, and that can make it look really pretty. Now, if we just put a regular little paper box or cardboard box up here, it's going to look really ugly, right? So what we do is we take overlays. If you're not familiar with an overlay is like usually a shimmery or a different color a piece of cloth that goes over your tablecloth. That's the word I'm looking for. So you can use tablecloths or you can use overlays. So your table here has a tablecloth on it, but then you take a second tablecloth, a small one, and you put it over the box, right? So now it looks like there's something underneath it, but you can't see the box itself. So that box can be as ugly as we want because the overlay is going to look really pretty. And then the extra fabric just kind of falls and it looks really nice. And then we put little bowls of maybe side dishes or things like that around the box. So maybe on top of the box is something like a bowl of salad or a bowl of bread rolls or something of that nature. And then around it are the butter and the jam or, whatever it is, or the salad dressing, right? And then next to that, we put the next dish, right? So that's one thing you want to do to really snazzy up your buffet line, is you can just put things at different levels and use overlays, use tablecloths to kind of hide that and also to sort of make it seem really seamless, okay? Another tip for, so that's for design. Another tip for kind of the flow line of your buffet. This is very important, and this is something that caterers know, is you want to have, here again, let's say that this is our table, right? And here's all the people who are going to be coming up and getting food. You want to leave, let's say this is the wall, you want to leave room behind here so that the people who are refilling the line can get to it without interrupting your flow line. That's going to make your guests have a much better experience, and whoever's having to serve the food is also going to be a lot happier, because they're not having, you know, sometimes they're having to carry hot food or heavy food, and they don't want to be bumping into guests, right? So that's an important thing to know about where to place your buffet table. Don't put your buffet table right up against the wall if you can. Another tip for if we're trying to save a little bit, and you might want to, what am I trying to say here? The food that costs the most, maybe it's your filet mignon or the fish that you're serving, whatever that entree is, you probably are trying to think of like, okay, 1 piece per guest, or usually it's more like 1.5 per guest, right? But we don't want to put up a sign that says that, because that's a little tacky, right? So instead we have little tricky ways that we do this, okay? We decide which side of the buffet is the beginning point, right? And we try to send our flow this direction. And then at the front of the line, we put our lower cost items. The fillers is what we call them. So this would be a bread bowl. And then here would be a salad, right? Salad is not super expensive. So we want the person to fill their plate with these lower end things, and then have the entree at the end of the buffet line. That way your guests will naturally not take more than they can eat, okay? Another thing to be aware of if you're doing your own buffet line is there's a thing called a chafing dish. It looks a bit like this. It's got a metal dish, like a big solid tub, and then it has a little frame that sits in. And then underneath here, you put your heating elements, the fire, right? And that keeps the dish warm. But what we want to do is we want to put just like 1 or 2 inches of water in the bottom of this chafing dish, and then set your food dish on top of that. If you put too much water, then this ends up colliding with that and the water spills out. So we don't want to do too much water, just like 1 or 2 inches. But you don't want to put no water, because then your chafing dish will burn, right? We don't want that. So what we're doing is we're just allowing the water to steam, and that will keep the food hot. So that's the kind, you want chafing dishes. You can rent these at any party place, and then just put your dishes inside that. And that will keep them hot. You can also use a chafing dish without the heating element and just put ice in here instead if you're having your wedding in the middle of summer, and it will keep the food cool for you instead. So that's 2 ways that we can keep temperature, because that's one thing that's going to ruin your buffet line. If you know you've gone to all this work to have a really nice meal, and then the temperature doesn't stay right and the person's food is cold by the time they get it, or it's melted if it's supposed to be cold. So that's not fun, right? So go ahead and look up chafing dishes. Chafing is C-H, chafing, okay? So those are some good ideas for when we're putting together a buffet line and how we're gonna actually make it an enjoyable experience, not only for you and your wallet, but also for your guests. Because remember, one of the things I teach at Bride School to all of my brides is the wedding is about you. It's about you enjoying your day with your guests. And then the guests, it's about their experience. It's not just what they get to see or you know, what you're going to give them. It's about them having a good experience. So even if you end up, you know, doing almost nothing for them, but the few things that you do invest your money into are things that they're going to remember. They're things they can be able to take with them. Those are the types of things we want to invest in for a wedding, because they're things that are going to last, right? Okay, good. I hope that was helpful to you. Oh, I also promised I was going to tell you a couple of different alternatives to this. So I'm going to give you some crazy alternatives. Some of these may work for you. Some of them are probably just totally off the wall and they're not going to work. But my husband and I, when we got married, we had a picnic wedding. This was a great way to keep the budget really low on the food cost. All it took was sandwiches. You could literally, again, remember, I said use fast food if you need to. You could literally just go to Subway and order a bunch of sandwiches and then put them in cute little baskets, which we bought at Hobby Lobby. excuse me, great way to get discounts and, you know, give everybody a basket that's got a drink in it and a sandwich and send them on their way. And then everybody got to sit out on the lawn, and we just bought like yards and yards and yards of checkered cloth and cut them into little, not little, but big picnic blankets. We didn't even sew them. They were just cut out pieces of cloth, and everyone loved it. So again, remember, it's all about the experience. Obviously, we were having a summer wedding. So if you're having something in the middle of winter, that's a terrible idea for you. But, you know, try to think outside the box and find specials and find things that you can do that will make the guest experience really awesome, and cut down on the hectic amount of planning that you have to do. That is my number one goal as a wedding designer, is to cut out the stress from your life. So with that being said, if you have any questions, or you really feel like you could use some extra help without having to pay $1,000 or more for a wedding planner to be there and hold your hand throughout the whole thing, feel free to reach out to me. I am available all the time. I love working with brides. I love helping them design their wedding day, and I would love to be there for you. So go ahead and reach out to me. My website is sarahweddings.com. That's SARAH weddings.com. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.